good. So we're talking about character stories. So when I start working on a character, I look for inspiration in so many different places, and it doesn't always come from the same place. Oftentimes, I have to look at multiple sources to really flesh out a character and really make sure that this character is something that not only I'm going to have fun with, but that the audience can relate to. It's super important for me that my audience can connect with my character in some kind of way. And the more of a diverse audience that's able to connect with that character, I think the more successful of a job that I've done. And so, speaking of character stories, for example, I have one of my favorite characters that I've ever created, which is Pastor Corey from my one-person show, Ooh, Mr. Corey, You Bad. Or let me say it the way you say it with the full flair. So, ooh, Mr. Corey, you bad. And then you have to add, I do declare. So the backstory, before I give you the whole character development, so the backstory is freshman year of college at New World School of the Arts. We're doing this project called the Freshman Discovery Project, where the dean introduces the incoming freshman class to the rest of the school. Our talents, our abilities. She works on this directly hands-on. And only one time did she have to step away and somebody else had to do it. Gail Garrison took her place, was when she got sick and had to leave the school for some time. And the dean's name is Patrice Bailey. Now, both did an excellent job. But Patrice's thing was very hands-on, and unlike the rest of the school year, where she kind of dealt with things with students kind of secondhand, after the teachers maybe had some involvement, that sort of thing. This, she was there start to finish. You had to be to rehearsal by a certain time, and if you were late, and she was going to murder you. Not just that, but she was very zero nonsense. I remember. So I came from Miami-Dade College, where it was always about being professional and being that person that contributes, and being the type of person that is very friendly and there to help everybody, being that nice guy, right? And we're in rehearsal, and I just remember making a simple suggestion to her. The dean's trying to line everybody up on this one line, but some people are going to be blocked by a curtain. And I remember saying to her, hey, do you think we should open the curtain so that you're taught to be a team player? Should we open the curtain so that everybody can be seen? She walks up to me and she goes, I'm going to tell you something that Gail Garrison told her class. Shut the F up, you don't know S. I mean, literally in front of everybody. And I remember feeling so burned by that. I was like, oh, I'm not saying nothing else again. And I'm not whatever. I felt so salty. But it taught me a valuable lesson about knowing when to step up and offer advice and suggestions. But that's how strict and how serious she was, to put everything into perspective. And so we're doing this project. I got on her. It's not even about her, but she was great. She's actually really, really good. She advocated for me in so many ways. But we're doing this thing, and the way she runs the project is, you're going to perform different things, poems, scripts, from plays, songs, just different scenes, maybe even some dance numbers based on that theme. And our theme was money. It was money, money, money. She always did this little creepy thing. She's like, money, money, money. Our theme was money, and so we did a Dr. Seuss bit about money. We did In the Heights, if I won the lotto, well, I know I wouldn't go on a shopping spree, something like that. Just a lot of different money-themed sketches, whatever. And there was one about a character named Richard Corey. Now, this is how we got to actually Pastor Corey becoming real. Me and Jose was a great classmate of mine, great friend, super hilarious. He and I were supposed to be townspeople, and the really tall black kid in the class, Tori Linder, this great Will Smith-esque looking black guy with this bass in his voice, who was also a musical dancer. I had no jealousy of this guy. If anything, I would want to be this guy. This guy was the guy. He got to be the lead character in the Richard Corey piece. And so, the thing kind of, there's a moment in the script where it says, whenever Richard Cory came to town, the people, all, I guess, swooned and fell out. I forget the exact script. And there's Jose, who is like Jim Carrey. And me at the time, very much like Chris Tucker, just Rush Hour 1 and Fifth Element Chris Tucker, like crazy energy. And there we were supposed to be these town people who just enamored and adoring Richard Cory. And there we are, like two big black women at church in the background. I laugh because of the way it came to be. It just was one of those where you find great chemistry with a scene partner and it takes a life of its own. And so there we are. And, whenever Richard Cory came to town, the townspeople always swooned. And, ooh, Mr. Cory, you bad, I do declare. And so for freshman year, sophomore year, I think even into junior year, that was just a catchphrase that I had with folk. For whatever reason, I kept it long after the freshman discovery project was done. And so, going through the halls, just feeling good that day, you might say, "Ooh, Mr. Cory, you bad." Or like, we'll have like those inside jokes with each other, or something might happen, something very saucy, or something even just really good. And we'll say, "Ooh, Mr. Cory, you bad." And then the follow-up, which is what I would do, is, "Ooh, I do declare." And so that just took on a life of its own. Jump to senior year. Well, the summer before senior year, we're supposed to be working on what are called our one-person shows, which is basically our graduation requirement. And in that summertime, you work with your advisor and this, that, and the other. And for whatever reason, I was just all over the place. Did not work on it properly until like the last minute. Finally got a theme in, or a title, and I think it was originally called "Ooh, Mr. Cory, You Bad," which is actually the name of the show. The catchphrase became the name of the show. And I don't know, I think at the last minute I'm just kind of thinking, what could I do so I can meet this deadline and have at least my theme in. And that became it. And just as we worked on it, I remember turning in multiple editions of it, and I think it was always going to be about a preacher. But it went from like, okay, this is okay, I need you to go and work on it, develop it some more, to, okay, Devon, I don't think you took the note we gave you, to like, bro, I don't know if you're going to graduate. I remember somebody saying that in class, because you give feedback, we give feedback to our classmates on their scripts. And I remember somebody saying, "Devon, I don't know if you're going to be able to do this." Well, thank you for doubting me, whoever you are, because I ended up coming back with this just really amazing script. And what happens is we're in our acting class with Gail Garrison. Now, Gail, you thought Patrice was bad. Gail wasn't the dean, but Gail was scary because Gail took no crap. It didn't matter if you're a freshman or a senior. I got stories about Gail. But Gail was one of my favorite people because she always kept me on my toes and made me step up to the plate. And so Gail, one day in class, is like, "All right, today, you guys are going to work on your one-person shows, okay? Do whatever you need to do to get them finished up, finalized, whatever." Because this is big. It mattered to every teacher, because every main teacher in the program was an advisor for at least one student. Gail was advising students, and other teachers were advising. I had a different teacher that was my advisor. And there I am in class, and people knew I was a slacker, or I was just not as focused or whatever. And I remember Gail being like, "Devon, what are you working on?" Because I was actually watching the movie, and this is going to go into the character development part. Gail goes, "Devon, what are you working on?" I'm like, "I'm working on my one-person show." Clearly she doubted me. She's like, "Oh, really? Okay, well, I want you to get up and perform some of it." Like, did you just challenge me? I take the challenge. So I get up, I do the scene, and the class is like, wow, because they hadn't heard this version. The last script that the whole class had heard was that really bad one where the person was like, "I don't know if you're going to graduate." So I get up, I perform it, the class is wowed, and I'm like so excited. This brings me to the point of the character development. So Mr. Cory, like I said, I think the idea was always for him to be a preacher, and pulling him in, that day we're working on our scripts in Gail's class, I was just like looking for inspiration, and I wanted the character to have a certain way of talking, and I wanted him to have these catchphrases to really be that southern black preacher that you just know, right? And so I remember looking at the movie Meet the Browns from Tyler Perry, one of my favorite movies then and now. just the silliness and the extreme ridiculousness of Mr. Brown and his sister, and just all of that, you know. I wanted to pour some of that into the character, and so I'm watching the movie and just feasting on ideas and pouring them in. So the costume designing of Pastor Corey was intended to be extravagant. There was a desire to give him some sort of Jerry curl, maybe even that gold tooth, you know, that greasy, slick, wet shoulders. Don't know if I could trust this guy, he might sell me a car type preacher. I think I was going that route, but the Jerry curl thing was just going to be a little too difficult to do. And so, you know, we went with the suit. Now, I had always been wearing suits in this style, you know, that long zoot suit style, because it was a trend where I was worshiping at the time at Hallandale Church of Christ. A lot of the guys were wearing those longer coats. Some guys even had it down to their ankles. And so that was the idea. But I had the suit. I remember doing the photo shoot, the promotional photo shoot for the character, and I just felt like he didn't have enough. You know, nothing about him said that this wasn't Devon on stage. I need him to be a preacher. And so I remember when working on it, and it may have even been for one of the like dry runs that we were doing, for one of the pre-live rehearsals. I remember asking my dad, because my dad had gold jewelry, and I remember asking him, hey dad, can I borrow some of your jewelry? Can I get like a loose, you know, a loose bracelet that men would wear, maybe a necklace? And I don't think I wore the necklace, but the bracelet I had. You know, you get them preachers that have to, when they preach, they got to do their hands like this so their jewelry moves. You know, God said, let there be light. And the whole time you got this dangling bracelet. And so I got the jewelry from my dad, and most of the costume and stuff I already had. Like the shirt, the sleeves were actually too short, but, and I remember it too, purple shirt, slightly too short sleeves with the white cuffs, the really long purple suit, and tie. Like most of the wardrobe I had in my, you know, in my possession already, so that was really easy to do. And then, you know, the Bible, it was easy to get the Bible. I think I borrowed the Bible from Gail, actually. Gail always had a Bible with her. And I'm not sure if I borrowed it for rehearsal, or if I actually borrowed it for the full run of the show. But I never really had like one of those big preacher Bibles. And I think at some point I stopped even carrying a Bible because my Bible went digital. I was using the iPad, or, yeah, actually at that time I had purchased an iPad with my federal student loan. That I'm still paying for today. But I borrowed the Bible, and then, you know, set-wise, styling out the set was interestingly easy. So one of the notes that they gave was to make sure that your show can travel. If you have to do this in New York just to get in the door, make sure your show can be done anywhere, on the street, in a theater, you know, on a bus. And that was really big for me. And so the podium that we use, the lectern, I actually got that from the Student Life Department. I was really good friends with folk there, so they let me borrow that. We just draped it in a black tablecloth that I think I also borrowed from Student Life. And then the two plants, I got those from Student Life. Like, I got 2 plants from Student Life just to make it look like this mega church stage, which typically mega church stages are, you know, very open spaced and not a lot on there. It's not fully decorative. I think you see more of that in smaller churches. And so, very simple set that can go anywhere. And if I had to do it without the lectern and without the plants, I could still do it. But I was able to really create that presence with just those features. What really helped the show really carry and create that atmosphere of being in a church on a Sunday was the audience participation and really embodying the character. So what about the character development? So Richard Cory's whole thing was to be that Southern preacher with something of an accent, not too strong, because I needed the white and Hispanic people who weren't familiar with this to really get that, to be able to understand what he's saying and relate. I wanted to have catchphrases that didn't necessarily have to make sense, but that the audience could appreciate. So saying things like sipping tea with the Trinity on Tuesday, stuff like that.
I might sip tea with the Trinity on Tuesday.
And Richard Cory's whole vocabulary was his whole sort of playing with his words. You know, and it wasn't just playing with words, it was catchphrases.
We got ourselves a full house today. We got blacks, a lot of y'all. We got whites and Cubans and There's an Asian somewhere around here. And just like that, job application, we got other. Y'all know who y'all are.
It was saying things in threes.
Hearing such rumors would have been okay, except they're being spread all around the community like STDs and HIVs and MP3s, all you bootleggers.
And it was a slight mispronunciation of things.
There have been rumors spread that I have been fornicating with sisters from this here church and not from this here church.
So for example, you know, if he were to say, I don't know, he might say something like, I know a preacher that doesn't say disciple with a P. He says disciple with an F. There's a guy, there's another preacher who doesn't say Ephesians. He says Ephesians. And so that was also part of Richard Corey's mispronunciation things. He wouldn't say all the syllables. But the speaking in threes thing comes from a congregation in Deerfield, not Deerfield, in Fort Lauderdale, North Fort Lauderdale. It's 15th Street Church of Christ. I forget the name of the area, but 15th Street Church of Christ. And there's this one sister, I still don't know to this day who she is. But every time the preacher's preaching, you hear her literally in threes every time. What a blessing, what a blessing, what a blessing. And then at some point after that, the preacher may make another point, and here she goes, my Lord. And so I was like, put them together. Give Richard Corey all of that. So what a blessing, what a blessing, what a blessing, my Lord.
I say what a blessing, what a blessing, what a blessing.
In writing, a lot of this was improv and in the moment. Like when they threw out the name Idris Elba. Using Idris Elba was a part of that. I think in the original script we may have said, I don't think we said Denzel. I think we may have said Taye Diggs, or we may have said Tyrese. We may have said Tyrese. I forget the guy in the original script, but they threw out Idris Elba. You know, you're cueing the audience with certain things. Like, give me a guy that's your fantasy, you know, stuff like that. And so when they throw that out, the idea was for Richard Corey to really take that and run with it. The night, when you watch the actual video, you hear a baby respond. Because I go, Sister DeQuanda, I don't know where you are in this church building this morning. And all of a sudden you think, yeah. That was my niece. That was like, I don't know, she wasn't even a year old, I think, but that was my niece, you know, and she just, with this loud noise out of nowhere, and I really think she may have been trying to communicate with me.
Hey, Sister DeQuanda, wherever you are this morning here in this church, getting hold of these babies.
And it was so unexpected, and I would have kept, I broke, when you see in the scene, you can see where I broke. I wouldn't have broke if it wasn't for the audience losing it over this moment, because they knew, like they could see it with me that, hey, that got him. In writing the script, I thought it was just great to have those things that the audience could really latch onto. There were a lot of things that I wrote in, or that I improv'd, because I knew what was coming before. I knew where the audience was coming from in real life, where they were coming from coming into my show. So I do want to share that there is going to be a return of Pastor Corey. Pastor Corey coming back now. Yes, Pastor Corey. I think in this new edition, Pastor Corey has been given a second shot at preaching, and so we're gonna see what this one is about. We're gonna see what this one ends up being about. Does he get the job? Is it Pastor Corey on trial? We're really gonna see where we go with this one, and we're gonna use some modern day frames of reference. You know, we used Bill Clinton. I did not have sexual relations with that woman. We did that one. So we may do some Donald Trump stuff. May do some Joe Biden stuff. You know, it's going to be fun. I got to tell you that much. It's going to be absolutely fun. So if you want more character stories and behind the scene looks at some of the pieces that I've done, subscribe to the channel. Just go to the channel page and click on that subscribe button, but take it a step further and click the bell and choose all so that you can get all the notifications when I'm uploading new content, not just the character stories, but other things like how-tos and unboxing experiences, should I buy that, and great motivational and inspirational videos to help you on your own personal journey. Until next time, get out there, create, and have fun.